Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our afternoon edition of Big Brother 22 All-Stars Live Feed Spoilers. We are in day 50. What better way to celebrate that than CBS taking away all of our live feeds for the past, 12 or so hours?
It's amazing.
Ooh, pop. That is the sound of our metaphorical balloon being popped. We do have some live feed stuff from before the feeds went down to talk about, but we gotta talk wall yellers again, guys. I know it's everybody's favorite topic at this point after what seems to be, Jess is just brimming with excitement. She's such a big fan of the wall yellers constantly becoming a narrative in this season.
Yep.
All right, we'll get into it. We'll talk about some other stuff. DaVonnes got a new plan. But before we do, if you guys do like this video, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and support us further. Check those links to the store and also our Patreon.
All right, so let's talk about the wall yeller. Okay, so supposedly this wall yeller yelled out that Nicole flipped on Ian and said DaVonnes' name. So this was going out to DaVonne. And nobody really knows what's been heard or not, because feeds have been down for hours now since then. And it's irritating, and part of the reason that it is because I actually just wanted to see how this was going to play out. I'm not a fan of the wall yellers. Everybody knows that I'm not, but I actually wanted to see how this was going to play out as gameplay. Was it going to be Christmas that was going to say it in the goodbye message and pull DaVonne in? Was Nicole actually going to play that part of the game and tell DaVonne? Was she going to lose DaVonne's vote? I wanted to see actually how it was going to play out, but this is how it played out. Outside interference has taken that away. I'm irritated, just in case you didn't know.
It's all frustrating to me, and I think part of it's just selfishly. I used to kind of like the wall yeller as a once a season sort of thing because it was something different to talk about, but it's just, I was only okay with it really in that moderation, and it's become so much that it's not fun anymore, and it's really not fun not having feeds for 12 hours, and I should say, we don't know for sure that it's because of the wall yeller. We put a poll up on the YouTube channel. A lot of people out there seem to think it might be because of the neighbor twist. Maybe they've brought that in earlier. I kind of thought it was just going to be revealed on Thursday. I could be wrong. We don't have any clear information on that. Just the wall yeller part of it, though. Yeah, it sounds like DaVonne and Kevin were in the backyard and possibly could have heard this, but there's no guarantee that they did, or if they did, they will act on it. Because another part of this is, I don't really see how yelling this changes anything. It's not going to give anybody an incentive, I think, to keep DaVonne now that she's heard this. I don't think it's helpful.
No, the only thing that it's going to do is, in the end, not give DaVonne's not going to give her vote to Nicole if she makes it to the end. Maybe. I mean, we just don't know how DaVonne will end up feeling about it once she leaves to jury. Is she going to be upset about it and feel like she was clowned, or is she going to have time to look at it and then change her mind and be like, like Ian, and be like, oh man, that was actually a pretty decent move. I didn't like it. I didn't like that it, eliminated me, and I don't like how she went about it, but it worked.
Here's the thing that I think a lot of people, and I would assume even that the wall yeller's probably not super pro Nicole, but the irony is that this, if DaVonne heard it, it could actually end up helping Nicole, because it gives DaVonne a chance to go and talk to Nicole about it if she heard it, and Nicole can come clean within the game. Maybe they do build up some sort of relationship around this. Maybe there's forgiveness, maybe there's not, but it would give Nicole potentially more of an opportunity, and all of these plans, they could just blow up in various directions because of this that supposedly ended up happening.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give a little bit of a story time here.
All right, let's have it.
Because for those of you who don't know, it's not that I talk about it that often, but I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire a long time ago. I think I was 19. It was all the way back in 2006. But what happened was I was doing the $25,000 question, and I used the 50-50 lifeline. I was down to two choices. The question was, Who was Barbara Walters speaking to when she asked if you were a tree? What kind of tree would you be? And the choices were A, Katharine Hepburn, C, Nancy Reagan. And where I'm getting at here with this is after I used this lifeline, someone in the audience said, oh, it's got to be Katharine Hepburn. And I heard it, and I was sitting there in that hot seat, and I was thinking, oh, that's interesting. Maybe they just gave me the answer. Maybe they're trying to help me. But there was also a part of me that was like, maybe they just are really bitter that I'm in this chair and they're not, and maybe they're trying to screw me over. So I ended up walking away. It turns out they were right, and I didn't get the $25,000. But where I'm going is that even if DaVonnes heard this, like let's say she did, she doesn't know for 100% certainty that this is someone trying to help her. Maybe this is someone who is a DaVonnes hater. I know that, we love DaVonnes. There are DaVonnes haters out there, and maybe they're trying to screw with their game. That is the complicated nature of wall yellers.
Yeah, wall yellers, this season have been saying a lot of stuff, and most of it has been true. But I mean, the people in the house don't know. This could be, a fan of Nicoles or a fan of someone else that is trying to lead her astray. They can't really trust what is being said over the wall because the wall yellers are not part of this game.
All of this ultimately, and we could go down an even bigger rabbit hole about all this, but I think the simplest thing to say is, I think once this season is over, the producers are going to take a serious look at whether it is moving the house to a different spot in the lot or installing something that's going to make it harder, soundproofing it in some way. But I can't imagine they're going to have people upset that the feeds keep cutting because of all of this, if that is the reason that they're cutting it. And so I think they're going to figure out something else to keep this from happening.
And the feeds are down all the time anyways. So, on top of it, then also being taken away for this, it's becoming a lot more, just difficult to have any real live feed action because they are getting cut regularly anyways. And then we're having wall yellers every couple days. Now they're getting cut even more. It's enough. I think I would be shocked if they did not move this house to somewhere deeper into the CBS lot where just nobody can get to it.
I think it's probably going to happen at some point. I think it's harder in the middle of this season because they're on kind of a limited crew and it's a little bit trickier and all of that sort of stuff. But we'll get into a couple of things now that are related to what was going on beforehand, because we've all been sort of hoping that DaVonnes would come up with a plan, and she's got one. It's interesting to say the least.
Yeah, and I mean, some of you guys have mentioned this in the comments too, almost this exact plan, which is that DaVonnes is going to try to act like she doesn't believe Nicole and start kind of not a fight necessarily, but make it so that they're very they are on opposite sides. They are not working together. There is no trust here, so that the guys would start to think that if they keep DaVonnes may go after Nicole for them. And it's a pretty decent plan, except that Nicole is not in on this plan. She does not want any part of this.
There is so much unintentional comedy here, though, with the DaVonnes. Nicole actually did turn on you.
I know.
You don't believe David, so now you're gonna pretend like you don't believe Nicole, when in reality you should not believe Nicole. She tells this plan to Dani. Dani seems to be relatively on board with it because, hey, it's not her, I guess, that's sort of taking the brunt of it. Nicole, I think there are a few things in this world I think Nicole hates more at the moment than the idea of this plan that basically would just drag her name through the mud with other people. I'm guessing it sort of becomes well, what if DaVonnes convinces herself that this is actually the truth, that I actually did vote out Ian? What becomes of it then?
Yeah, and that's actually what I think is probably the biggest thing going on in her head. This is just a guess, but that is what I think she's the most worried about, is she has been saying that she's been struggling with having all this guilt, that she hasn't told DaVonnes. DaVonnes going to leave the house looking like a clown. She could have fixed it. DaVonnes came to her, asked her not to do this, just be truthful, and she lied. So I think that this plan could actually end up being in a situation where it ends up just either weighing on Nicole more or the truth just comes out about it.
The one issue I see ultimately with this plan, and really with a lot of plans, is just that if you are the guys, and DaVonnes and Kevin are so close, it's sort of like, well, what's the incentive then to then just go like, okay, we're going to keep DaVonnes now? Because I think the assumption would be that if DaVonnes wants to do something, Kevin probably wants to do something reasonably similar to some degree, and it's kind of why the Wall Yeller's probably not making that much of an impact, because even if DaVonnes is suddenly like, oh, I want to go after Nicole now, she betrayed us, Kevin was also betrayed by Nicole, so it's not really like it dramatically alters anything.
No, and I think in general, like, everybody that's voting, I don't think when it really comes down to it that they're going to be that, like, broken up over who ends up going, because to them, they all need to end up going. Kevin, DaVonnes, and David, all of them, they all have to go. And it's going to be, if they keep winning, probably one after another, and then they'll all just cannibalize each other.
I think ultimately Dani has sort of just convinced herself. Like, I think she'd prefer, obviously, DaVonnes stay over Kevin, but I think she's sort of like, you know what? It's fine. It is what it is. And she sort of, I just quoted Enzo, but she even said this to Nicole. She's like, well, Cody's saying that if we do this for him, he'll do something for us down the road. It's like, are you this brainwashed, Dani, that, you know, Cody is going to magically gift wrap something to you that's good for your game when he is playing to win? And guess what? He's winning because he's continually finding ways to undermine you and Nicole's place in the game.
What is it that Cody is going to give to you? That's the actual, like, surprising thing, is that Cody has offered nothing. Nothing. He's just said, I will give you something. It could be anything that he's going to give her. He wasn't very clear about what it was he was going to do in return for her. So she has taken this big promise of nothing and has run with it.
Like, even if Cody ends up being like, okay, we'll get rid of David, it's like, Cody doesn't care that much about David. It's just not really that much of a sacrifice for him.
Yeah, and Dani doesn't care about David either. I mean, that's the thing, is there's nothing left that he can really offer her. DaVonnes is someone who could have been a number for Dani, for Nicole. He's taking that away. Okay, cool. What are you going to give back then as a number? There's nothing, man.
I know all of you are very eager to have an update on what I think we should affectionately call now Old Shoegate, which is that if Kevin or David win HOH and nominate the other person, I have to eat an old shoe or do something else that's terrible.
As long as it's not water on your head. We have been talking about the idea of I make homemade dog treats for Coco, so we were talking about that. We call them Doggy Reese's. They got peanut butter. Okay. They got coconut oil.
Nothing is making this appealing to me.
Seed. They're really good for you. They fight cancer.
See, I'm not a dog. Like, that's a big part of the issue here. And
we eat all those things.
Well, okay.
It's all stuff we eat.
Only if I'm wearing Ian's dog costume. But here's...
Well, we don't have that.
That's what I'm banking on. But here's the good news. I think we have hope that maybe this isn't going to happen, because Kevin and David, I think they talked last night. It seems like even if there's not a ton of trust, I think there's a mutual understanding that they really don't have a lot of room to turn on each other in the game at this point.
But they will.
Okay. I gotta believe.
I believe in David.
David. Okay.
I think that David is not going to go after Kevin. I don't think he just doesn't have a target with him. There's no real reason for him to go after him. He has bigger fish to fry, and I think he would. He's really unpredictable. But Kevin has been playing a game where he's been picking off his own side all season long, because he is really trying to make a little crack into that big alliance. He's going to try to insert himself, and it's not going to happen. And I could easily see Kevin winning HOH, and then all of them being in his ear and being like, yeah, man, you've been part of us this whole time. Just get rid of David. And he'll be like, all right. And then that's it. And I think that's what's going to happen. You'll have to eat a dog treat.
I keep those dog treats in the fridge here, because I believe that, I want to believe Kevin, he was talking to DaVonnes, and he was sort of like, you know, I don't really trust David, but I understand. I kind of got to work with him to some degree. We got to try to find a way to make things happen here, because all these other people put you on the block, Kevin. If you're willing to listen to these other people and their nonsense, you need to eat the dog treats, Kevin, because then you will have been the one who has just decided, you know what, I don't care about my own game. I'm going to be buddy-buddy with these people who've been trying to get me out since week 1.
Under no circumstances am I eating an old shoe or a dog treat. I'm just putting that out there.
Well,
I'm not part of this. I will give you the supplies you need. I will even make you a fresh batch.
It is
but
either
I
me
am
or
not doing
Kevin
it.
that is going to have to eat the dog treat if this continues. But I believe in you, Kevin. I do this for me if you're not going to do it for yourself. Don't nominate him. He even sort of said to David, okay, you know, David, maybe I need to act betrayed by you, that you screwed me over. That way we can keep our working together relationship a secret so that they don't put the two of us on the block together.
Listen, I think that Kevin probably believes what he's saying somewhat right now, because he did say to DaVonnes he's going to work with David. He did talk to David about this, but I think that as soon as he gets HOH, that big alliance is going to sweep in and be his best bud, and it is going to be over. He has been so influenced by this big alliance, and he thinks they're his friends, and that he's part of this, and he could get into this, that he will burn David in a second.
If you're going to do this, Kevin, throw the HOH. I don't want to eat the dog treat. Come on.
Coco loves them.
Coco does love them. Once again, I am not Coco. Okay, so we'll see what happens the rest of the day. Zingbot is tonight, seemingly, so we will have something to discuss later. Regardless, I hope the feeds are back before the show. Who knows at this point?
Come on.
With our luck, they'll come up at some point between when we're recording this and when we put it online, and there'll be a million things that we don't talk about in here. But we'll turn this over to you guys. What do you think about the Wall Yellers now? What's your take on DaVonnes' plan? Let us know all your thoughts in the comments. And if you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, support us further. Check those links to the store, our Patreon, and we'll see you here next time.